Wall Street Unplugged looks beyond the regular headlines heard on mainstream financial media to bring you unscripted interviews and breaking commentary direct from Wall Street right to you on Main Street.
What's going on out there? It's January 17th. My friend Curzio hosts the Wall Street Unplugged, so I bring the headlines and tell you what's really moving these markets. Just got back from the CES. You guys are excited to get the update. Going there for 12 years now. It's where all the technology companies, 4,300 or 4,500 in attendance around there this year, which is a lot. I think the record was 5,000. But they go to CES to launch, or to tell you the products are going to launch over the next 3 to 6 months. And it's usually this exciting conference. I think there's 140,000 people there this year, which is insane when you think about it. You get to test these technologies, have a media pass, and, it's really, really cool. But I tell you, the travel there back and forth with the weather was really crazy. I mean, I had a big delay on the way there, and on the way back, I flew to Phoenix, which I never do. So I went to Phoenix from Las Vegas and then straight back, and it was American. I was on first class because we have lots of miles and everything from the business and stuff like that, so I always try to upgrade that to first class. And I wound up getting kicked off of first class on the way back after I waited an hour before the flight left. And it was going to be a 2-hour delay, but I guess they switched planes and said, hey, there's another plane coming in. It turned out to be a smaller plane. They didn't even notify me or anything. I went right up there. They're like, oh, hold on 1 second. You got to go to the side. And then they had to find a seat for me, which pissed me off a little bit, but then I got on a plane. I'm like, whatever, right? Not a big deal. They refunded me and gave me a credit and stuff like that. But I hate the fact that they didn't let me know until I got to the desk. So then I'm like, all right. So I'm going to go on my phone. They have Wi-Fi, and I'm going to watch the Chiefs game, the Chiefs-Dolphins game, because it's about a 4-hour flight from there, 3.5-hour flight from Phoenix back to Florida, to Jacksonville. So then I find out that it's not on TV anyplace. And I'm like, man, that sucks. And I didn't know that it wasn't on a TV network. It was actually on Peacock, and you had to pay to stream it. And a lot of people were really pissed. And when I got back, I found out about it. But they were so pissed that 27 million people actually paid for that. They paid to watch that game. That compares to 29 million people that watched the game. I think it was before that, the day before that. Or maybe it was the first game, which was the Browns and the Texans playoff game on a regular network. So think about that. Everybody was pissed off, but they paid for it, and that's got to be really great for the NFL. And a game changer when it comes to streaming. I mean, that just goes to show you with streaming, it's all about new content. So Disney's getting crushed now. People are leaving in droves, and Netflix, I mean, they can't compete with Netflix. They can't compete with Max that are spending $30 billion a year. Think about that, $30 billion. I mean, you could probably buy 3 NFL teams for that, and that's what they spend a year, $30 billion a year, just on new content. But sports is a huge deal now. I mean, if you look at Prime and Amazon, they bought up the rights for Thursday Night Football, and they said they had more signups. You had to sign up to Prime in order to get that, and they said they had more signups, record signups, than anything that they've ever done in the company's history. That includes their Prime days, that includes Black Fridays. They've never seen that many people sign up before. I mean, something to look at, because Disney right now is negotiating with the NFL to get rights to broadcast those games. That was announced a couple of weeks ago. I bet you that contract's going to look a lot different now for streaming platforms, because the demand that you're seeing, you're going to see all the big guys, whether it's, you have Google already locking in the Sunday football package. You have Amazon Prime. You're going to see, they're starting to lock in sports, but, who knows? But these guys have an unlimited amount of capital. Disney doesn't. It might be even hard for Netflix. But the rights that they're going to get, I mean, that contract's got to look different now that they're seeing that people are going to pay for it. It's almost like, hey, we get on regular TV. But the fact that 27 million people pay for that was insane. It pissed me off, because I thought I was going to be able to watch a nice football game, playoff game on the ride home, but that didn't happen. So anyway, that was an interesting trend. Also, a trend that I saw is just, Netflix was there, and they were showcasing a new series going to come out. I forgot the name of it. Very, very popular. That's from the Game of Thrones creators. But you're seeing this secular trend that people not going to the movies as much. I think that's a secular declining trend. I don't know if people are used to short videos now or through YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, but that's a real trend. When you're not seeing people that go to the movies even to watch the Marvel movies, which are fantastic in those types of settings, there is a change going on. And I think Netflix is going to be a monster winner, especially now they got advertising revenue. They raised their prices. Everybody's paying. They didn't really lose any subscribers. They're gaining subscribers. I think they're just light years ahead of everyone and the big winner in that space. And Netflix is probably going to do well going forward. But that was something interesting. Coming back from the CES, here are some of my initial takes of what I saw. And I enjoy it because I'm learning new technologies and new things. But it's definitely different because back in the day, everybody used to attend this thing. I mean, all the major auto companies used to attend, and this was even before, EVs became popular. Now they're showing off their EVs, but now GM and Ford weren't there because they're not pushing their EV agenda. They're trying to cut costs, especially since, the strike took a lot of money away from them as well, and they lost money from that, the UAW strikes. But TNT, NBA, that was a great show. You had Barkley there. They broadcast live one year from there. You had, it was Shaq, Barkley, all those guys, Kenny Smith, and celebrities everywhere. There wasn't a lot of celebrities. The booths were a lot smaller. I was surprised. There wasn't a lot of stuff in there where the booth size was the same within Sony, but they only had like half the stuff they usually have. And that includes LG. They usually have this big display with all the TVs together. Now they had something of a smaller display for the first time. Samsung was just as big, not really anything exciting to launch. Again, everyone's talking to AI, which I'll get to in a second. TVs are great, technology is great, but we saw, at least I've seen 100-inch plus TVs, 130-inch plus TVs for the past few years. They're promoting, thinner. I mean, it's already as thin as almost that you can get and very light. You're looking at pixels, you're looking at 8K, but 4K is not really available. In some sports, you could watch it with 4K, but nothing really to see so much in a lot of the majors. Their announcement, the majors, I'm talking about Sony, I'm talking about Samsung, LG, those are the big guys that have, if I had to guess, they have to spend millions of dollars on their booths. I mean, if you follow me on Twitter at Frank Curzio, you're going to see lots of videos, really, really cool stuff, and I'll leave those videos there, but you could see the sheer size of some of these booths. That's really incredible. When I was looking at it, I was like, holy cow, this is insane. But it was definitely different. It's not where they're displaying stuff that's a lot of fun, that's cool. Again, for me, I like it. I'm learning new technologies, but it was a point where anyone could go there. You could see lots of celebrities. There's technology there that I don't care who you are, what you do. You could be a mom. There's this technology there for, baby technology and just almost anything that you possibly do, you'll find interest in. I mean, you can see the drones, and they had a mini drone display with drone soccer, which is one of the fastest growing sports, which is really, really cool. Again, you can see a lot of this stuff on my Twitter page at Frank Curzio. ESG, horrible. I mean, if you look at ESG, do not go to a Consumer Electronics Show. I don't know who tells these guys to go there, but ESG is not exciting. Okay, this is the Consumer Electronics Show. I mean, leave that stuff for the institutional conferences and check your box and put in your presentation the 5 pages that's mandatory. This way you get your good ESG rating and you're allowed to get marketed by whatever you want to do, right? The whole political nonsense. Nobody really wants to see that shit because it's not exciting. It's not fun at all. I'm not saying you don't need it. I'm not saying that, the technology is garbage or what. I'm just saying at the Consumer Electronics Show, you want to see something exciting, and it's not exciting. One startup in Eureka Park, and Eureka Park was huge this year. That's in the Venetian, which is the hotel I stayed at, but in the downstairs area, that's where they have all the startups. They had so many startups there that they had to bring some of them upstairs. And they're labeled by country, where you see, all these, 50 companies from France, 100 companies from South Korea, China. They had to bring a lot of the, I think they brought China and Japan upstairs in the Venetian, which I never saw before. I thought that was ironic because that's the biggest showing of the most startup companies that I've seen in 12 years at the Consumer Electronics Show, at the same time where the funding market is more tight than it's been in 20 years. So it's not easy to get funded right now with higher interest rates. Everybody's talking about that. So I just thought that was interesting. I don't know if that's a sign of a top, but Eureka Park was really good. They had lots of great technologies there and startups, but one of the companies out there had a banner and it said, boring, but it's ESG. I was like, first of all, it costs you minimum 30 grand. They say it's 20 grand, but I've had a conference there for Curzio Research in Vegas, and that's if you don't want carpet, if you don't want Wi-Fi, internet, or anything, they bang you out. Like the whole unions and stuff like that there. I mean, it's amazing. 2 million square feet of space was taken. I mean, it's unbelievable. I actually tracked my walking, and it was, 5 miles one day, 3.5 miles another day. That's just me walking around the conference. That's how big these things are if you haven't gone. And how many companies there, it could be overwhelming. But that banner I thought was funny and probably not a good marketing strategy, since no one's going to go booth when you're saying that this is boring, right? So the ESG thing and alternative energy thing, less is exciting, and you could show something that's really, really cool that everyone's going to take. The CES is designed for you to have open access to take pictures, to display all over social media, put on hashtags. They actually have all statistics of the hashtags and everything, to see what's popular. But, just keep the ESG at home, because I'm telling you, from this conference, a lot of companies like John Deere talk about it, and other companies talk about it. And it's a small section within this massive booth. But if that's your feature, no one's going to come to your booth, and you're probably going to waste 100 grand, 200 grand, which is probably the minimum to get in on the main floors. So healthcare technology was really cool. Some of the cool things, Siemens. This was cool. They had it in like a glass case where it was like a hand that said press it, and you saw the fingers. I'm like, what is this? And then they show a video behind it, which is about a 5 or 10 minute video that I actually sat there and watched. And it's a prosthetic hand, but a new one, where due to 3D rendering and the 3D technology and special sensors, they showed like kids who were either born with like a half an arm or maybe had an accident. And if you see the regular prosthetics, it's, you can put things on, but you can't really use your fingers. This thing was absolutely incredible. It gave you chills, because the kids put it on like within 10 minutes. I don't know how their body got used to it or got the feeling, but the technology basically clicks in with the sensors, and they were moving their fingers in this thing, and they were able to throw a ball. They were able to catch it. They were able to write, and the kids were like, oh my God, just to see their expression, it gave you the chills. I was like, wow. I mean, this is where you want technology to go, right? This is really cool shit. They had facial recognition technology for healthcare, where not only one-on-ones and like telehealth for doctors, but also you could take selfies and it monitors blood flow to your face, and using AI, it could predict your mood. So again, that's good for telehealth, calls with doctors, and see, again, your mood and how you feel and things like that, and how they could diagnose and talk to you about it. But it just gives you like all these stats and statistics and based on the blood flow in your face. And, I saw people do it, and it looked pretty cool. I just found it a little weird. There's another way. This Mira by Barracuda BeMind. That's the company. So there's a mirror that uses generative AI and natural language processing, and to understand your daily mood and stress levels. And then it generates like special light therapy, I guess, to calm you down, to make you less depressed. But it was a big deal, apparently. It's where this technology is going, where you might think it's crazy, but if you could really get to the point where facial recognition and seeing the blood flows and things like that, where you could diagnose certain things, that's pretty cool. A wearable arm gadget. This thing is like a big glove, and it helps people with Parkinson's. And there was a guy there who was about 80 years old with his wife, and they asked him to come to the conference. And this was in Eureka Park. And when I saw this, I'm like, what is this? And I heard this technology before, and people promote it, but the FDA rarely approves it. This is something the FDA approval. It's so much more powerful. It's like getting a testimonial, right, from somebody saying, this guy's great, it's awesome. This guy was like, hey, I used this. I couldn't walk. I couldn't do it. He could, he talked. He still had slurred speech. He couldn't talk at all. Now he could talk better. He can move. He could write. He's not shaking as much. And it was incredibly powerful. He wasn't like, an 80-year-old guy who's like the sales guy. It was kind of like, this old guy was just like, yeah, I'll go and promote it because this is, changed my life where I couldn't do anything. I like to look more into that technology. I thought it was fascinating, but just to see that guy, they just asked him to come to the conference or whatever, but he was real. When you're 80, you're not fake. It's not like some guy's promoting it, but he was, shaking and said, I always, slur my speech a little bit, but I couldn't speak at all. And I thought that was fascinating. It's like improved his life tremendously. I talked about TVs from some of the other places, but there was a new company that has a wireless TV, and it has a 6-month battery. I don't know how great it's going to work in terms of, 4K and stuff like that. But just think, again, some of this are prototypes, and think where it's going. Now, not only is this TV wireless, again, wireless, runs on a battery, but it has this suction cup vacuum technology that you could take it and place it any way you want, any flat surface on a wall. You can go to the bathroom, put it on the wall, take it down. Again, this is 55 inches, 35 inches, whatever you want, and you can just put it wherever. You could put it in your car, and if there's a flat surface like outside, you could put it outside and display it there and watch TV. Again, it's wireless. I thought that was really cool. Again, I'm not too sure of how great that technology and how bright it is, and 4K is going to take up a lot more energy and stuff like that and battery. But just, I could see that being a big trend 2-3 years from now. That's really cool. No wires, battery technology. I mean, people thought, wow, you're never going to drive a car with a battery. Now, you see EVs, lots of EVs from Tesla and other companies. Sex tech was a big deal the past few years. Always gets a lot of eyeballs, right? Sex always sells. And a lot of this stuff is for women, and you can guess what for, right? So for the first time, there was sex tech and technology for a male. And there was this device that basically goes up and down, right? Electronically goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And, so you get the point why that's good for males. But what was interesting is it connects to Wi-Fi and the internet, and they sign deals with adult movie companies where the device is going to mimic what that person is doing in the movie and the motions with you. So basically, you become the star in the movie, right? And I thought that was interesting. Also, that the technology could be controlled from anywhere, and you give someone else access. So he was like, if you're away, your wife could, you put this on, and your wife could control it from someplace else, And I don't know, to be honest, I don't know. Look, it was cool, and there was a ton of people there around the booth. The way they explained it was really cool. It wasn't like uncomfortable and stuff like that. And, again, I don't know. Maybe I think about this differently than everybody else, but I don't know if you could have someone else control it from someplace else. But I thought it was interesting. It was the first male sex tech that I really saw, and demand was huge. I mean, they were selling some of these things right there, and I think it was like 3-4 years old, but they're really marketing it now. But I thought that was interesting. AVVR, right? So augmented reality, virtual reality, and merging those two worlds. We've seen a lot of that technology, especially within businesses and engineering and stuff. And, is this trend going to be huge? One of the biggest things I always felt with AR and VR, and one of the best applications you could have, is putting on these glasses and being at a real live sports game and being able to watch it anywhere and interact with anyone. And I did that. Okay, there was a Canon booth that was there, and they were working with technology from Viewerwix. I was watching a game, and this was between the Cleveland Cavaliers and Golden State Warriors. And this was a game that was taped, I think, a few days ago. So it wasn't live. Put on the glasses, I'm on the court. I could watch from the rafters, I could watch from the sidelines, and I'm not an avatar, right? I'm not an avatar in the middle. I'm like a camera that you can't see. And because of 3D rendering, they could get any single view from any single place anywhere. And I was on the court at the three-point line. Remember, they're playing this game. And Steph Curry's going through his legs. He fakes a shot. Donovan Mitchell's covering him. If you know basketball, Donovan Mitchell's a great player as well. And he jumps up to try to block, and Steph Curry goes around, hits the layup. The other team takes out the ball. I turn around. They're all coming past me. I'm on the court watching this game, and I'm actually watching from below, looking up at Steph Curry. And I could adjust it where I'm even with him. I can go to half court, and once they pass me, I could turn around and watch these guys playing the real game behind me. I was fascinated by that. I think that's a fantastic idea. This is a company, Viewerwix, that has contracts with some of the NBA teams, including Cleveland, that uses technology with their players to better understand, what's going on the court in real time. And I said, how long is this technology away from becoming real? And I said, how are you going to make money off it? He's like, subscription revenue, where you could buy all the NBA games, and you have access to all of those games, or it could be NFL games. And then in the playoffs, they'll probably charge more for the Super Bowl and stuff, because they don't want to take away from the actual tickets. Again, there's nothing like being like a Super Bowl. Trust me on that. Watching, I should even mention the Eagles, how terrible they would have finished this year. But I did go to the Super Bowl that they won in Minnesota, which was fantastic. Great experience. They said it's about 2 years away. So this technology is about 2 years away, and they need faster speeds because of the 3D rendering, and that's a big deal. Like, the 3D, it's able to capture even what a camera cannot capture. If they can capture some of it, they could kind of figure out the rest of it is in real time. But to have it in a live game and a 3D technology, 3D rendering, it requires so much speed that the speeds have to get a little faster, and you have to get a carrier to actually commit to that. I could see Verizon or AT&T actually doing that and sharing in a subscription-based revenue with the NBA. But to me, that's fascinating technology. That makes a lot of sense. And I was there. I was on the court watching this game. They were scoring, and you could see the score and everything. And I mean, it was incredible. And it was, it was fast. You could tell it was a little bit computer generated, but it was, real time within the game in terms of the speed of the game. And just being able to watch that, I was fascinated. I mean, you could sit there and just watch it from the front row, but you could be, again, the rafters or be on the court. And it's not like your avatar's running on the court. It's just a view that you have. Kind of like those views from the NFL with the cameras that come down to wires and then they get them in the huddle and they come back out. It's kind of like that. You get to see everything, which I find fascinating. And that's coming pretty soon because when I look at the 3D glasses, everybody wants glasses like my glasses where, they connect and it's, augmented reality and, you have a little pierce here in your ear and you could talk and I could bring up all stats on my glasses that no one else could see. If you want to find out a profile of somebody or you look at something and it gives you all the information on it or a store and the ratings. They've had glasses and Meta and Ray-Ban join together. And now they have glasses that are pretty cool. For 5 years, the last 5 years at least, they've been showcasing this technology, so many companies. The glasses, they never freaking work, ever. They never work. Every time I sample them, they're like, oh, well, we got to fix this, we got to fix that, come back later. So when I saw Meta and Ray-Ban, I'm like, all right, I got to try these glasses. I tried them on. Sure enough, we're having trouble with the technology. We can't get it to work right now. Come back later. Every single year, they've been trying to perfect this every year. And it's hilarious to me that they can't get it right. So we're still a long way away from that as well. And if you have the Ray-Ban glasses that connect, let me know. I'm sure they work. They just didn't work there, but they never work in these displays. That might have to do something with the Wi-Fi connections there because when you have 4,500 companies connecting at the same time, some of them did have trouble connecting, which is weird at the Consumer Electronics Show, the biggest conference in the world. But those are some fascinating things that I saw at CES. A little disappointment in terms of the excitement, but that's okay for me because I'm looking for new ideas. And then you have the biggest idea of all, which is AI. And at least 80% of the companies there had AI, right? Just said, okay, we're using AI, we're doing this. And I took an executive tour and learned a ton about this trend and visited companies. So it's like a tour about 15, 20 people. I thought Stevie Wonder was actually going to be in our tour, believe it or not. I think he was in or whatever. But they say celebrities get these tours all the time, which I thought was funny, but I didn't know if that was a joke or not. But apparently there's other celebrities that are supposed to be there, but they like to take these tours and not be bothered. So, you have these headsets in, you go around, they go to different booths and things like that, which is pretty cool. But I learned a ton of how amazing this trend actually is. But there's a lot of things that I feel, especially there, that people don't get. And when you look at the numbers, they had some numbers and they give you statistics, like 80% of productivity gains you're going to see from AI in 2026. That's going to be around $2 trillion in benefits. But what you have to realize about AI is it's not a technology that's solving new problems. It's solving existing problems more efficiently. So if you look at an example in healthcare, which is drugs, and it takes a long time to bring those to market, and the patent's like 15 years, whatever it is, people complain, but it usually takes 7-8 years to bring that to market when you start, when you first file for the patent, and you got to go through the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. It costs sometimes $1 billion to go through that process. That's why so many drug companies want to hike up the prices so much, because they only have maybe 6-7 years to sell this thing to really get it out there. And then after that, you can create generics. Now, AI allows that and allows that process to be much, much faster. So instead of maybe 6-7 years, it's 3 to 4 years. Now you're bringing great drugs. Remember, you have all these compounds that these drug companies have, and they want to use them for as many things as possible. This way they make money, right, in different drugs. That's the whole biotech and healthcare industry. And these companies, they control the compounds and they have tons of data. And when people say AI, you have to think data, because it's all about data connection. And or data collection, right? So when you're collecting this data, that's how you determine everything about a person, and you're able to predict what they're going to do in the future and how they could. You basically want to create 2 more Frank Curzios, and the other 2 do all the freaking crazy things that I have to do all the time, and it gives me more time, become more efficient, more productive myself, right? By doing this instead of hiring people to do it, and that's part of the whole AI trend. But when I look at the conference, and I went to these companies and asked them where they got the data sets from, and they have the proprietary data. I mean, how are you going to learn from me? And that's the problem I didn't understand, where, they don't have my data yet. So how can you say you're using AI? And a lot of these guys couldn't answer that question. Again, we're not talking about the main companies. I think a lot of these companies aren't going to see revenue from AI or meaningful revenue anytime soon. I would say more than 90% of the companies. And again, AI is all about the data. But they want to track with data every movement, every sale, every feeling, analyze, predict what's going to happen in the future. But how do you get the data? Because if someone comes to you and asks you that they want to collect the data, you're going to say no every single time, especially now. So with these new companies, how do they get the data? Well, maybe you're using some of their services. I don't really know your services. A lot of these companies don't really have, like there's an AI company that, you could have pictures and have a video, and then it determines what kind of music will be great for you in that video. And they show that they have 10,000 examples, and they put music in. It was cool, but how do you know what music that I want? You're only going to know that by knowing me. And the only way you can know me is by tracking that data. And maybe they buy that data from the big guys. But when you look at the Facebooks, the Googles, they already have our data, right? They stole it without asking. If you want proof of that, it's why even today, every PC, phone, laptop, their default setting when you get these devices allows companies to collect your data, send to third parties, track you through the mapping services, every single thing, right? That's the default settings on these things, which is freaking insane, right? So they have all your data already, which makes them the king of the world. So Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon are going to completely dominate AI. Tremendous. I mean, just having the data is all AI. If you don't have the data, you can't really say anything about AI. And I learned that a lot with a lot of these companies. Now, companies love this, and it's the holy grail because it provides more efficiency. It's going to increase productivity, and they could generate more profits. However, it's also a double-edged sword because these technology companies and many people pitching this technology, and think about before you love AI and you got to give someone your data and all this stuff, because when you do that, there's a very high likelihood you're going to lose your job. Okay, you're going to see probably 30% of the workforce disappear from AI. And I'm talking about in the next 2 to 3 years. So these companies see massive productivity gains and more efficiencies, and they're able to do this while laying off a lot of their employees. So what does that do for companies? You're increasing profits dramatically while increasing your output. So your margins and profits soar, and you get rid of one of the most highest expenses for all businesses, which is salaries. You can't do that with all jobs. There's going to be guys within technology that are special, that are creative, that you need, these developers, and they're going to be in high demand, and even more high demand when AI is taking place. So now you're going to be laying off a lot of people within the space. The current people you're not laying off, it's going to give an incredible amount of power to, where they're going to negotiate pay, extra equity stakes, because they're going to be able to create their own AI systems for different companies. And a company like ours, where we have data for 15 years of podcasts and teach, maybe we could feed everything, all the notes that I have. I usually have bullets, and then I'll go into, different things and go anywhere in this podcast. But, putting in all those bullets and everything I'm going to talk about in the podcast, and, times that by, twice a week, 15 years. Now it's going to learn how I write. It could spit out different stories and produce tons of content, right? So you could build your own AI programs, and these guys are going to be able to sell those companies for a lot of money. Maybe 50 million, 100 million, who knows? But you're going to have to negotiate their pay coming up and raise their pay, especially for the guys who really, really are great developers within the AI community. But when I see at the CES that everybody's pitching this thing, I feel like they're pitching it for their companies. And they're not the CEOs of the companies that are out there. These are people that are working. And I feel like telling them that you're pitching something. It's ironic because this is going to take your job. And I feel like a lot of people there didn't realize that. Even people on the panels and stuff like that who weren't, key executives, CEOs, CFOs, chief marketing officers, whatever. And when I look at AI, it's a fascinating trend, but it's a big boy trend. And I'm not too sure what the benefits are going to be for consumers, because you're going to think you're benefiting. You can use GPT and just, type in essays and whatever, and that's cool. But again, they're getting all the data. They're getting all the information from you. And that's how they're improving that system tremendously. But I think the benefits for individual consumers are not going to be felt for a very, very long time. And the benefits for companies is massive. And that's why they're pumping AI. And AI is great. And AI is this. And it's kind of like I hear consumers like, AI is great. I'm like, it's not that great for you, man. It really isn't. So be careful. Be careful like pumping this and saying, this is a great story and this is awesome, because you have to be careful. It's all about data collection. It's all about analyzing that data, and that's how you become more efficient. That's how the predictability models and stuff like that work. And that's going to result in a lot of average jobs and worker bee jobs, which every company needs. People just, typing up something, or when I was at Street.com, the banks just reported. So what does Street.com do is, they had like 30 people there, 40 people there writing kind of generic stories. All right, let's get a quote from someone in the industry, whatever, JP Morgan beat estimates and Goldman Sachs beat estimates thanks to this division, blah, blah, blah. Here's a quote. And guys like, well, I think, it's going higher. But it's kind of like something like that is almost generic. And you got to be careful if that's your job in a certain industry. You have to learn something differently. You have to be creative, but it's coming. This is coming for your jobs. And they don't want to say that, but it's very, very true. I'm not worried about AI where it can't be controlled. Generative AI, you have to put inputs in order for it to work. So people saying, like, it's going to take over the world and terminate and stuff like that. I'm not worried about that at all. I think that's really big because it provides extra layers of security for existing systems that you're creating, which is much, much more money, more data points you have to put in, and that limits the competition, which makes the big guys even stronger. And to use the best AI technology, you have to buy the most expensive chips from NVIDIA, and AMD's doing pretty well now. Just launched their line of chips, which are not in the same ballpark as NVIDIA, not even close. But it's a big boy market where the chips are super, super expensive. The technology and putting everything on that's going to be required in terms of cybersecurity and things like that, it costs a lot. Where I see the big guys just having a massive edge in this industry, but just learning, talking to companies and understanding this technology, it's fascinating. It's changed the world, become much more efficient, super high, fast speeds, doing things, just helping you become more productive. But I'm not seeing the massive benefits to consumers as much as you're going to see the huge, huge benefits to corporations. Again, it's going to result in more productivity gains and less costs, which is going to result in a lot of people losing their jobs, and that's going to result in higher profits, higher margins for these guys. So the big guys are going to get a lot bigger. I wouldn't put Tesla in there, but I would put Google in there. I put, just the four names. Just you have Google, you have Meta, you have Microsoft, and Amazon. Those guys have been collecting data on you for the last 15 years. They know everything about you because most of us put everything about it, our social media life, what we're buying on Amazon, everything's there. They know everything. Imagine having all that data now throwing AI in it, what's going to predict. I mean, that's an advertiser's dream, plus massive more storage, which makes especially Amazon and Microsoft, who are the kings of cloud. You could throw Google in there, who's a distant third. Oracle's in there as well as IBM. They're like tied for third, fourth, fifth. But that's great for those businesses as well. Adobe, too, has lots of features that they rolled out that actually you could use AI. There's a company that I just recommended today, which is a surprise company. I'm sure you guys are going to think like, how'd you recommend this company? It's well off the radar. But using AI right now, and man, it's a company that hasn't done well for a long time. Not IBM. And now with their new features, and you're seeing the ad revenue turn around with the new model and stuff like that. I mean, this is the company we just recommended, CRA, who Curzio Research Advisory members are going to get at the end of the day today. So really cool stuff. And tomorrow in Wall Street Unplugged Premium, I'm going to break down some individual companies and some companies that are going to benefit, not just the four big ones that I mentioned, but a few others. And we'll come up with a new recommendation, with Daniel. It's a premium podcast we do all the time. If you're not a Wall Street Unplugged Premium member, you can become one by going to WSUPremium.com. It's just $10 a month, guys, and that gives you access to a $1 Stock Club portfolio where we recommend a trading idea almost every single week. And some of those have been doing great. I mean, we've been all over uranium, which uranium, holy shit. You see where your rating prices are? It's like $105. I don't know where they are today. $105. I mean, they were 35 probably 18 months ago. Holy cow. Just unbelievable. And you're looking at almost the whole industry and all those stocks are trading near, if not 52-week highs, all-time highs. Some of those have been in our portfolio, just different trading ideas and stuff like that. You get all that access and access to tomorrow's podcast, WSU Unplugged Premium, with Daniel Creech. And we have a lot of fun now podcast, but we give lots of ideas. I'm going to share some more ideas from the CES and the conference. Also, it is earnings season, and we'll break down some of the recent earnings, especially in banks. So, guys, questions or comments, I'm here for you. FrankCurzioResearch.com. That's it for me. Be sure to watch us tomorrow at WSU Premium. Sorry about the Eagles. Man, I don't know how they were favored the last 3 games. They lost to the 2 worst teams, and they got blown out. They made Tampa Bay look like a great team. I love Detroit next week. Detroit's going to destroy Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's a horrible team. I just think you lost the team with the Eagles. It's got to be interesting to see what they do with coaches because you got a couple of coaches out there that are great right now, Harbaugh, and also Belichick. So it will be interesting. But, yeah, what a disappointing end to his season when they were 10-1. But it should be good for the rest of the playoffs. See what happens. So, guys, I'll see you tomorrow. And, again, questions, comments here at FrankCurzioResearch.com. Take care.
Wall Street Unplugged is produced by Curzio Research, one of the most respected financial media companies in the industry. The information presented on Wall Street Unplugged is the opinion of its host and guests. You should not base your investment decisions solely on this broadcast. Remember, it's your money and your responsibility.